Uncle Trump has one shot, one opportunity to stop the death of America. One moment with the freedom of interest, but with DC wit, yo. Vivek's palms are sweaty, his next big job gets heavy. There's curry on his sweater already, mom's tandoori. He's nervous, but DOD is getting order ready to drop bombs, cause he gon' got the fat with Betty. He goes down, DC crowd cries so loud. He opens his mouth, the words you find just come out. They choking now, we the people joking now. The clock's run out, time's up, over, bow. Snap back, DOGE, Elon, they spin gravity. Oh, grab your up with your choke, he's so ready. No boast, make it look easy. No, he works at it, he knows he'll push him in. Gotta keep him alive. Stand together, start World War III, make America great again.
Greetings, conversationalists from across the fruited plain. This is the MAGA Kingdom Report for May 12th, 2025, show number 18, and we're just about at 130 days into the Trump presidency. So on today's show, with my co-host Anastasia Theodoropoulos and Dr. Richard Panzer, we will be going over Trump's tariff plan in a nutshell. Do tariffs equate to economic independence? Gordon Chang, he reports on the effects of tariffs on China. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent reports on tariffs. Companies returning to the United States because of tariffs. Amazon update on tariffs, and are tariffs working for America? Senate vote on tariffs, Trump tariffs revenue, scripture of the week, and last, the music video, Trump's tariff on war video, which is going to be fantastic. So just a reminder, guys, hate does not live here unless you're a hater. And what we're going to show today is tariffs. It's an in-depth issue. So what are we going to hit today?
Well, it's very interesting that you say this, Frank, because I think for a lot of people are still a little bit confused about tariffs. So on the topic of global trade and fairness when it comes to President Trump, we have to remember that he declared for decades our country has been looted, pillaged, raped, and plundered by nations near and far, but for both friends and foe alike. This is one of the most important days, in my opinion, he says, in American history. It's our Declaration of Economic Independence, and this was said on April 2nd, 2025, which is otherwise known in the U.S. and throughout the world as our Liberation Day. But what does it all mean? And I think this is why we're focusing on today's show. And in a nutshell, okay, Donald Trump, when he first came out with this, I love my tariffs. Tariffs are one of my favorite words, right? He declared in one of his tweets, when tariffs cut in, many people's income taxes will be substantially reduced, maybe even completely eliminated. Focus will be on people making less than $200,000 a year. Also, massive number of jobs are already being created, with new plants and factories currently being built or planned. It will be a bonanza for America. The External Revenue Service is happening. Don't you love it? Oh my gosh, this is really great news, Richard.
External.
Yeah, so let's find out what it's really all about. And what's interesting is we have a child who gives his perspective on how tariffs work. Let's take a quick look.
Liberals are freaking out about tariffs. I'm just a kid, and I even know that tariffs can be very good for an economy. Did you know that Andrew Jackson, the only president to pay down the national debt, did it using zero income tax and having only tariffs? Liberals would rather tax citizens on their income and possessions than tariff international organizations. Tariffs, yes. Taxes, no.
Wasn't that the cutest kid ever?
Absolutely.
He gets it.
Yeah, he's a future governor.
Well, you know what? Right, when you get in office, don't forget about us, and that's what happens to a lot of people. But he forgot to say that there was no income tax before 1913, and the United States was run by tariff revenue. So, when we started the program, it said Donald Trump possibly eliminating taxes, income taxes on under $2,000 or $200,000 a year recipients, which is us. Yeah, tariffs, especially when you're not being treated fairly, when other nations have a 200 or 300% tariff and you're not charging anything to them. So, but let's look at this. Do tariffs equate to economic independence?
Let's find out.
It's our next slide.
It's important to remember that tariffs aren't just tools for trade wars. They're a key part of economic independence. Before income tax was introduced in 1913, tariffs were the main source of revenue for the U.S. government. This allowed the country to fund itself and grow without directly taxing citizens. Tariffs protect American workers and industries from being undercut by low-cost, lower-quality foreign goods, allowing American businesses to compete and thrive. By levying tariffs, we maintain jobs and encourage domestic production, both crucial for national security and prosperity. Tariffs also help the U.S. negotiate better trade deals, pushing other countries to lower their trade barriers in exchange. So, who would oppose tariffs? Globalists, corrupt politicians, and crooked elites whose only care is wealth and power. They take advantage of cheap labor and lax regulations abroad. They take advantage of you. Enough is enough. Tariffs are about valuing our workers, our consumers, and our nation. Let's keep jobs in America and use tariffs the way our forefathers did, to protect our economy and our future. We need strong economic policies. We need tariffs, not taxes. We need to put America first and begin a new golden age.
Well, as you said, Frank,
1913,
Yeah.
no income taxes.
this is not a new concept. It's just a concept that's worked very
Well-
but not in our lifetime.
You know what they said, and they showed it, corrupt politicians. Like, how did we go from America, a thriving economy, manufacturing, to where we don't make anything and we're dependent on China for drugs? Look, you're going to pay taxes, you're going to pay somehow because nobody works for free. But a tariff equals the playing field, and the more money you keep in these United States, the less you fund the jihadi terrorists overseas, the less you fund the Chinese military industrial complex. So keep it here, and America will continue to be a dominant power with tariffs.
Now, when you said less dependent on China
Less.
for drugs, you meant the pharmaceutical drugs.
Absolutely.
Not the fentanyl.
Fentanyl. Oh my God,
Which
right,
they're-
Rich? So
They can
there's
leave
an
it
enemy,
alone.
right? China is your enemy, and they're flooding us with fentanyl. But what?
I think the tariffs may get them to stop the fentanyl.
Oh, guess
I'm
what?
just
I did
wondering.
hear on that lying, racketeering, conspiratorial media that China was going to consider something with the fentanyl because
They're
they just
suffering.
ship it over raw.
They just discovered that it was being produced in their factory.
Did they?
It's like a
Oh.
revelation for them, right?
Yeah, Trump's revelation.
Richard, you have something
Okay,
interesting
yeah,
on China.
well, Gordon Chang, who is
Gordon Chang.
We love him.
the leading expert, in my opinion, on China, he really breaks down how these tariffs are getting the attention, not just of the people at top of the Communist Chinese Party, but the workers in China.
Yeah, right.
It's
They're not too
getting
happy.
their attention.
Yep.
So let's take a look.
The Gatestone Institute senior fellow and author of Plan Red, China's Project to Destroy America, Gordon Chang. Gordon, great to see you. Thank you so much for being here. I know you've got a new op-ed out saying that China has folded in the trade war. Tell us more.
Yeah, the important thing here is that China, without any announcements, is not collecting tariffs on important goods. So, for instance, some semiconductors, aviation products, industrial chemicals, medical devices, some medicines. And also, they're going to expand that list because there are lists circulating in China of 131 items that China may not impose tariffs. So this is going to expand. It means that China is made an important concession, but it's not saying it's making a concession, which is a fascinating insight into the Chinese political system right now, which has become both intransigent and inflexible.
Yeah, it's interesting because the president has said now is the time to hit China with these tariffs, given that economy is in a weakened position. How would you assess the Chinese economy right now, and what is the impact of a 145% tariff on Chinese goods coming into the U.S., Gordon?
Yeah, it's not growing at the 5.4% pace that they reported for Q1. It's probably contracting, as we can see from the price data from both February and March, which signals that China's in a deflationary spiral. We are seeing underlying indicators that point to contraction, including tax receipts that were down 3.5% for the quarter. That's inconsistent with robust growth. And if China is not contracting now, somehow, it will be contracting very soon. So when you talk about 145% general tariff on Chinese goods, this really means that many factories aren't going to be selling anything to the U.S., which explains why some factories have already closed and other factories are cutting down their shifts.
In my mind, the big issue, look, I'd rather fight a tariff war or trade war than a military war. And so
that's coming.
Think about this for a second. If we can get China to change its behavior economically, that's a lot better than shooting missiles at each other.
Well, if you look at it, 245% tariff, like that's normally what we would be paying to another country. Instead, we're going to be charging that on Chinese products. So like I said before, you're going to pay either way. If it's in a shooting war, you're going to pay for the U.S. military to build up and ramp up. If it's a tariff war, what's going to happen, you're going to pay more for these Chinese products until U.S. manufacturing catches up here, and then guess what? You employ Americans that buy more houses, that buy more products, that keep that labor and the payments inside the United States, and we grow. So this, Gordon Chang testifies to that fact. Chinese companies are shutting down in China because we're the market. $64 billion in cell phones. Okay, maybe you're going to do without the newest cell phone, but do you want that or a shooting war with China?
Well, here's the other thing. From a humanitarian perspective, you have the communist people right now who are standing up again and saying no more. And a lot of these Chinese people, these hardworking people, have been abused. They're Christian, God-fearing people, and they're finding the strength to stand up and not just yell. They're in the streets. We haven't seen that, Richard, am I right? We haven't seen that in years.
Yeah, well, I mean, in Tiananmen Square, they had a million people gathering for change, and then they brought in soldiers from the remote provinces to come in, and they murdered tens of thousands, if not more. So there's a reason why the Chinese people have been afraid to speak out. Look, this tariff war, I believe, is going to lead to negotiations, and China's going to reduce its tariffs on our products. There are certain products that we have to build inside America for national security reasons.
Absolutely.
But we'll have a fair trade, I think, is what we're aiming at.
Well, presidential candidate Kamala Harris said, look at the root cause. Okay, it's the only good thing that she's ever said, in my opinion. But look at the root cause. Who's the one that had them stand down in Tiananmen Square and didn't offer help? George Bush and the globalists, right? There's a reason why China has grown exponentially and been allowed to get away with this human rights abuses, the slavery, right? It's because that corrupt politician, New World Order player thing that Donald Trump and we are destroying. We don't want that. We don't want a security state like China has. So the tariff wars hopefully dislodge this Chinese oligarchy, and we bring everything back to America, which...
Look, Newt Gingrich said that letting China into the World Trade Organization was a huge mistake because, look, we gave them a chance to come into the group of civilized nations, but they broke every obligation that they had. Even just to have transparent, there's no transparency from these Chinese companies. They should not be traded on our stock market because we don't know what those companies actually are doing because they're constantly lying.
We know, Rich, they know. It's just not reported, and it's tolerated by those that are selling out America. So, yeah. All good
And we have
points.
our companies colluding to build
Yep.
AI and surveillance technology to surveil Chinese citizens, and the globalists want to use that first in China and then
here.
on us. Okay.
So
Coming.
let's be honest, okay? If Trump didn't come in to do this, your personal robot may attack you and kill you, and it'll say on
That's
the back,
in the news, right?
made in China.
What did you expect?
Thank you, President Trump, for saving us. But here's some more news, okay?
Right.
Because we have a phenomenal treasurer secretary whose name is
Scott
Scott
Bessent.
Bessent.
Yeah.
And he really says it in a nutshell, which is Trump didn't just raise tariffs. He set a trap for China, and they walked right into it. So did our markets crash like the left was fear-mongering? Now the markets are roaring back, and China is left holding
Brilliant.
the bag. Let's take a look.
And all this was, again, this was driven by the president's strategy. He and I had a long talk on Sunday, and this was his strategy all along. And that, you might even say that he goaded China into a bad position. They responded. They have shown themselves to the world to be the bad actors. And we are willing to cooperate with our allies and with our trading partners who did not retaliate. It wasn't a hard message. Don't retaliate. Things will turn out well.
Well, it's important to note that the lying, racketeering, conspiratorial, collusional media narrative didn't happen. Markets did not crash, which they said it was going to crash. And by the way, Scott Bessent has a male partner. So what happened to Trump hating the gays? I mean, it's just been a fabrication of lies told to you over and over while reality is staring you in the face. And why is this happening? Because Scott Bessent, Donald Trump, and his cabinet are pro-American, pro-worker. Why didn't this happen for the Obama administration, right? For the other administrations? Because they're not interested in us. Finally, you're seeing what's happening. This helps us. Next thing we need is interest rate reductions.
So we see China clawing to defy us. Now we have to ask ourselves, why would a great nation do that? And I think they know that they have been in cahoots with globalism to take down America. If they do sit and negotiate, they recognize that they lose all their cards. So they don't want to play. They have no interest of playing fair with us.
Well,
and that's what terrifies them. And that's why they don't care about their workers.
Tariff-ize them? Is that the
I
that's
love
a new word? Tariff. We're going to tariff-ize
We got to
China.
get t-shirts.
Look, I have a suspicion that publicly they're going to
Right.
have a
Yeah,
temper
we'll see.
tantrum. Privately, they're going to negotiate with the United States of America. We're the biggest market that they have, and they're going to negotiate with us in private, though, and not admit it. Okay.
And it's only because they don't have the ability or capability to destroy the United States. As soon as they get the military capability, they're not going to care about markets. They'll rule over scorched earth. So until they get there, which they're close, I agree with you, Rich.
Right.
They're not going to come out and say, Donald Trump, we accept your terms. So this is.
What about the companies that are coming back? Do we have any big ones? I think
Yeah.
we do.
Yeah, there's a name out there that the name is Walmart, and President Trump's tariffs are starting to win as companies like Walmart have agreed to move production back to where? Where their customers are, these United States. You want to roll that clip?
Looks like Tariff Man Trump may have been onto something all along. Folks, y'all got to hear this here. Our guy DJT, after much public scrutiny about these tariffs that he was throwing on folks' head tops, all of a sudden, it turns out like the man is basically an economic savant, a genius in his field. Walmart has just guaranteed that they will be moving most production back to these United States. Walmart, one of America's largest distributors, Walmart, synonymous with America, will be bringing back production to these United States. And why? Why would that be? Well, probably for the exact same reason why every other president was promising to put tariffs onto other countries and to essentially bring back production. But when they did, it was no issue at all, no problem. Oh, yeah, please, we need that. Bring jobs back to America. But as soon as there's a man who actually executes, now he's the problem. Okay. And Amazon, y'all have 7 days. 7 days to respond. Because as far as what I'm hearing, y'all about to double down on Chinese manufacturing. So good luck.
Okay, I predict Amazon's going to cave in next.
You know, here's one thing. I stopped shopping at Walmart when they banned guns and ammunition. But it goes to show, if Walmart's going to drive jobs and production back to America, I'll start shopping there. Because if Walmart sees that the consumer is responding positively, what are they going to do? It's a no-brainer. Right. They're gonna continue. So I might go back to Walmart now and let the management know I'm coming here because you're driving production back to these United States.
So here's the good news, folks. Jeff Bezos just caved. Amazon will not be adding tariff price adjustments to products sold on Amazon.
Yeah, you know why?
Woohoo!
Yeah, because we'd stop buying. So, try to punish us.
So up here, folks, we have this great slide. It's called The Art of the Kneel, and it has to do with our tariffs. And what's beautiful about it is, as you can see, we have President Trump, and we have the whole world, including China, right there on top, kneeling to the almighty President Trump, and he replies, "That's better." How much fun is that? Mm-hmm. Great. So I guess the next question would be, of course, are tariffs really working for America? So let's take a look at that.
It looks like the tariffs don't work crowd owes President Trump a big apology. Tariff revenue just smashed records, $15.9 billion collected so far this month alone. The White House says it's close to a trade deal, but in the meantime, the money is starting to roll in.
We're only about 40 days in, right? And they're saying 15 billion, but you guys know, compared to $37 trillion deficit, $15 billion is a flea. But listen, to say it's not working, 15 billion, for less than, Liberation Day was what, April 2nd? I think it's working.
Okay, look, with President Trump, 40 days is like 4 years.
A lifetime.
It's biblical.
Oh my God. He's only in, it's 130 days around. Yeah, right.
And I wouldn't be surprised if he lives to be 150, like, some of the ancient people in the Bible.
Are you saying 10 terms? Is that what you're saying?
I wouldn't be surprised.
3 is on the
I'd vote
menu.
for him if we could figure it out with the constitutional thing. So, obviously, we're bringing in the money, we're bringing in the businesses, we're bringing in the jobs. Right. I still don't understand how the media on the left is trying to spin this in a negative way.
Why the hate? Hate doesn't live here, except it does, and they're professors of the hate, the lying, racketeering, collusional, conspiratorial media.
They're destroying. Hate. He's destroying, deconstructing their entire
the
web of lies.
Yeah, it's all great.
The whole thing.
Well,
not just the border, which he has shut down.
Right.
So here's the genius, because you could have presidents come in and do executive orders, but in reality, we do have, our forefathers created a system that we have to actually make things legal and go through the right paths to get there. Right. And recently, the Senate did take a vote, because there were certain Democrats and maybe a couple of
and Republicans, those little apparatchiks,
who wanted to block the tariffs.
Surprising.
And here we see in the slide, they lost. So although it was a 49-49 vote, Our great J.D. Vance came
breaks the
to
tie.
That's right, that's right. And now it is official. They cannot block these legal tariffs that President Trump has enforced. So,
Well, listen, why don't they do their own tariffs? Why did it take Donald Trump in his first 100 days after years of administration since probably Reagan, 86? Why did it take so long for somebody to finally say, look, we're getting to the point we have to use tariffs? So, yeah, we've been sold out.
All right, there's another issue here, and look, it was 49-49. It should have been 69
Yeah,
to
geez.
whatever, right?
Right.
Look, the Democrats are gearing up for the midterm election in 2026. Look, patriots, conservatives, people just have common sense. You need to vote. You need to vote. You need to vote in the primary coming up on May 20th here in Pennsylvania.
Yep.
And we need to vote next November. And we need to make sure, because it is literally
It's 50-50,
neck and neck,
yeah.
right? So, I mean, God had mercy on America in 2024, but there are battles to come. I just want to remind everybody.
If people didn't wise up over the transitory inflation that never left and is still with us and had to pay during the Biden administration, there's almost no hope for those people. So it's the people that listen and see that jobs are coming back to America, your family's going to do better, egg prices are down, it costs less for you to drive somewhere. Like, those are the people that are going to save America. It's not going to be the ideologues that still hate. So,
Going back to what you said, Richard, because it's
yeah.
really important to harp on that, because the
Right.
people we need to realize, the only reason why President Trump got in is because God protected this man and
from
provided,
the assassination.
he provided a
Multiple.
pathway of light for us to be able to redeem freedom in this country and defend it. And we have to recognize that all these things that are happening, even though we want it to all to be cleared up and back to normal yesterday, but the reality is it's going so fast. So let's be grateful and be supportive, and also not forget our courts. Because where the friction has occurred mostly
That's right.
is in these courts. And right now in Pennsylvania and other states, we do have judges up. We have here, for example, a Commonwealth judge
Commonwealth Court.
coming. Yes, absolutely. And we have Josh Prince, who we support, who
Josh
fought
Prince.
through and paved the way
Right.
for small businesses to not be suffering from mandates during COVID.
the
He walked the
lockdowns.
walk. He walked the walk. We
That's
have to
true.
support him.
Absolutely.
And we have Maria Batista, who's for the Superior Court, and she has also walked the walk. And sometimes, unfortunately, in our GOP and maybe in other states as well, they like to primary good candidates. So please make sure you do your research, go out there and vote.
Absolutely.
And let's not forget, because we referenced the amount of money that has already been collected, right? 15.9 billion. So we want to end this segment with this beautiful chart of the money collected. And also, if you can just look at this, before the tariffs were even fully implemented, right? Compare the flat line of 23-24. The tariff revenue has skyrocketed since then. Why? Because manufacturing is back. That's what it really comes down to. And the leverage is on our side. So this chart is a visual of what's going on with our taxes. And it's real simple, folks. Would you rather us tax our products here where we pay more, or would you rather tax other countries' imports that come in? So there is something to be said about that. And I think, Richard, we have the scripture of the week, which I think is very
It's a good
fascinating.
one, right?
Okay, render therefore to all their due, taxes to whom taxes are due, customs to whom customs, fear to whom fear, honor to whom honor. Romans 13:7.
So even God is supporting these tariffs. This is what it comes down to. It's in the Bible,
Taxes
folks.
have been with us for time
We're not making
immemorial.
this up.
Yep.
Tariffs have always been there, and they have worked. And I think also, Frank, we got something special wrapped
Well, yeah,
up.
this ties it all together, ties it all up. It's a little bit comical, but, like I said in the beginning of the show, this is going to explain tariffs. And this video, Trump's tariff war video, is going to be great. So take a listen, take a look, and we will see you all on our next MAGA Kingdom program.
Enjoy the freedom.
Y'all gather round, don't be late. Trump's back riding, setting things straight. Sanctions flying, tariffs too, and he bought himself a brand new blue. Told old Russia, sit or pay, or them sanctions come your way. Steel and aluminum taxed up high. Ask Canada, wanna be my 51st? Give it a try. Oh, Trump, he's got a plan, shaking things up across the land. Love him, hate him, don't be shy. He's riding through with his head held high. Stocks went crashing, folks got scared. Trump just grinned and said, who cares? Says recession ain't the name, just a transition in the game. Ukraine won't get no guns. Trump says that deal is done. Says they ought to cut a deal, give up land, make it real. USA put on ice, checking where they spend that price. 10,000 staff, not too much. Trump says 300 is enough. Old Trump, he's got a plan, shaking things up across the land. Love him, hate him, don't be shy. He's riding through with his head held high. Words got changed, books got cleared. No more gender, race appeared. No more feminism, equal pay. Trump done wrote them all away. Meets with Putin, shakes his hand, says we'll fix this man to man. Tesla purrs, he hits the gas, driving forward, first not last. No suit, no tie, just wearing jeans, talking big moves like you've never seen. And don't ask about